one.
Oppenheimer.
You sound like you did a lot of research into it before you went into
Was
the
fucking
movie.
sick.
So was there anything? I just want to know right off the bat.
research.
Did they miss anything in the movie, or do you feel like they hit all like the?
No, that's what I was
the key
impressed. I was impressed that the movie seemed to hit everything that like this deep dive video touched on Oppenheimer. It's called Infographics Show. Shout out that channel. It's a huge channel.
There you go.
They make the best fucking videos. Dude, they pump out like 1 or 2 videos a day. It's crazy.
That's where we
They have a whole video, like a whole team.
Do keep an eye out. We did make a little reaction right after we got out of the movie, so there's gonna be like a short TikTok coming out.
Yeah, I just need to record. I want to do like a little voiceover on the beginning. It's almost done.
So if anything, that should be out.
That'll be out before this.
Done. Yeah. Side point 2: we're about to come out with the Chocolate and Coffee Festival vlog that we did a little while back.
We did a vlog. We went to, I think it's the world's biggest chocolate and coffee festival.
Biggest, yeah. I don't know that there's that many of them, but it is the biggest. Yeah.
It was. We walked around and tried a bunch of chocolate and coffee.
Got very caffeinated.
Who doesn't want to watch that? It's a jolly good time.
We're basically done with that one. Just kind of need to lay the voiceover stuff on it. And that one's good.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good long vlog, probably 12, 13 minutes. Watch it all. Watch the whole thing. The blast our retention. Just kidding.
Please help us out.
Oppenheimer. I thought it was fantastic. I didn't get up to pee. I didn't want to eat. I
know it was a 3-hour movie. Dude, there was at one point I was like, I kind of got to pee. Like I got a lemonade when we went in. I drank the whole lemonade and I was like, oh man, now I gotta go to the bathroom.
I had some snacks in my pocket and I was like, I don't even care. I'm too locked in right now.
Oh, I was so hungry.
And we were like shoulder to shoulder packed in there.
Well, I know we come in and there's like people sitting in our seats and I was like, excuse me. They were nice though. They moved over.
Yeah, we actually had a good spot. I was like, no, let's go over there. But then they moved and I was like, oh, we're like right in the middle.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was looking for on the screen when we selected the seats.
It was a good spot.
I just didn't think there'd be that many people there at like a middle of the day on a work day.
Well, I think it was hyped up. I think the people wanted to see it.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like there was a lot of retired people too.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Because we went like technically like the opening day, but like it was definitely a lot of retired people that were there.
Everybody's either going to go to church or Facebook. Oh, did you see Oppenheimer?
Okay, well also, the movie theater we went to, low-key is half church. Like it's
literally
it's Legacy Church and it's the premier Cinemark movie theater. Half of it is a church though. And I was like, I know you guys are struggling since the pandemic, but like what's going on here? Okay, well,
historically, I think it was very accurate. That's what you were asking me. I think it is very accurate to all the research I had done. And the things I saw about Oppenheimer, he was a serious chain smoker. He was like skinny and malnourished. He was like cursed with knowledge, right? He was brilliant. And that's what a lot of the film is about, is like how that seriously affected his life.
You see, like he just can't sleep. He's constantly
his relationships were in shambles. His wife and his
I don't know,
mistresses, that was all just a hot mess.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I thought was cool was the way that they filmed everything, that they didn't need CGI.
Yeah, I found that out.
That's really impressive.
Right before we went to see it, I had heard something, there's 0 CGI. And I was like, sick.
Yeah.
Because then it's just exciting to see. Well, I know they want to do CGI equivalent type spectacular stuff, so what can they pull off in camera?
Well, like for instance, recording a real bomb going off. I mean, that's...
Yeah, well, I need to look up how they did the B-roll of the thoughts that Oppenheimer was having.
Too, yeah.
So I think they used sick micro lenses and like zoomed in on crazy lights or like sound waves. You know when you they have these plates where you play the sound waves and it moves sand or something like that. Or maybe it was like dust in the air with cool light.
Yeah, because if it's not CGI, I could see that they could still do it, but it's a real question of how did they
They needed some cool little light laser beam, and like they probably zoomed in on it with cool. I don't know, but there's some really cool graphics that go on screen. But the graphics are depicting Oppenheimer piecing his thoughts together about like quantum theory, and it's like weird little like electron orbits.
They start coming together as the movie like progresses. It's like,
that like it comes together and like the electron orbit kind of spreads out and it looks like an atom and it's. I thought it was dope. Yeah, and the music is intense. It's all.
Oh yeah, I thought the music worked pretty well. Like especially when the bomb goes off and it's just like almost dead silent.
Dead silent.
And I was like, what a move.
I liked that part. I thought about that. And I talked to my mom. She saw it today and she said she really appreciated the fact that it was so dead silent in the theater when she saw it. She's like, you could have heard a pin drop. Like nobody was breathing. And I was like, oh, that's the effect Nolan wanted. He was like, we're inside Oppenheimer's point of view. So he was breathless and dead silent when he saw that thing go off. He was just captivated.
And then it's so interesting because then all of a sudden you get the sound wave that hits.
Oh, and then it comes in pretty hard.
Yeah.
It's very well done. I'm just used to action movies with the biggest, baddest, coolest shit.
Yeah, of course.
Not saying that it wasn't big and bad and cool. I feel like
it's almost like when you're watching a sci-fi movie. In many ways, this almost was like a sci-fi movie, but it's just sci-fi in the sense we've already accomplished that technology. You know what I mean? But when you're watching a sci-fi movie and, like, for instance, they're in space and there's all these sounds, well, space is dead silent.
Right. That's all for the
So viewer. I actually really appreciate in the J.J. Abrams or version of Star Trek, the new Star Trek movies, when all of a sudden people get sucked into space, it's like, whoa!
Yeah.
Just silent. And I'm like, that would make sense. That's how it's
much more immersive for me. I don't want to hear all the space junk crashing around because it's not realistic.
Yeah. But in a way, you'd almost be like, that's weird if it was Star Wars, right? Like, if you didn't have all the pew, 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 all that stuff, you'd be like, where's my sound effects? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, what else we got about Oppenheimer? How'd you feel about Robert Downey Jr.? I thought he was phenomenal.
I would have loved to actually see him when I was working on set. So that's another point to talk about, that I was background on the production, and I saw myself. I was a little blur. I was walking. You did? I was an Army Corps of Engineers. Yeah, I don't know if you heard me. I was telling you, but I think you were so focused on the movie.
I was like, yeah, okay.
It was like when they were setting up the Los Alamos site. You know, like you see them with like the chain wire. And
for the Trinity
site. Literally putting up like the wood boards and everything. Yeah, they're like all out there. So I was filmed at Ghost Ranch here in New Mexico, which would be pretty close to the actual Trinity site. I don't know the exact correlation between Ghost Ranch and, or not correlate, but distance between the two, but it'd be pretty close. It's all northern New Mexico. So like the terrain you're seeing is more or less the same. Was cold as hell. We get out there at 5 a.m, which means we had to leave Albuquerque at 3 a.m. So I didn't sleep that night. And it was a 16-hour day. So I was very cranky. I didn't get breakfast because we were like rushed.
Oppenheimer.
They shaved us and then like cut our hair. We're in these full like World War II uniforms. And then as soon as I'm like done, I get checked in with everyone. It's like, cool, let me go eat breakfast. And they're like, we're going to set. And I'm like, son of a bitch. So we go out on set and I'm wearing boots that haven't been worn in. And the train's all like uneven. So I have like blisters covering my feet and my ankles hurt. And I'm like, this isn't fun.
Welcome to the Army, son.
Didn't really get breaks. We got like a lunch break, but it was like also really quick. Because by the time we got bused back to the camp, crew and actors eat first. So we like get in line. It's the longest line I've ever been in to get food. And like finally we get to sit down and eat. And they're like, okay, you got to go in 5 minutes. So you're like trying to like eat all your food all fast. But yeah, no. So when we got there in the morning, the ground was literally frozen.
Yeah.
And then because it's the desert, we went from freezing cold to super hot. And I was like, I didn't have enough layers in the morning. And then I had far too many layers by the afternoon. Mm-hmm. So it was just like, you couldn't balance the temperature differential. But the set was super cool. When I saw it, I was like, damn, like I feel like I'm at the Trinity site right now.
Right.
Like this is sick. I feel so immersed. I never felt that way on a set before. Normally they just go out to like a location. You're at a building or you're at like a foresty area, whatever. And then there's a couple set prop pieces, whatever. No, this is like a fully built recreation though.
So I always thought they were blowing too much money on these Hollywood pictures, but it is something to appreciate is the depth that they will go into with props and set design and all that. because it does a lot. Because it allows for, if you build the set head to toe and everything's perfect, then it allows for flexibility while you're filming. You can hit it from this angle, whatever. But then I think it's immersive for everybody on set. No, it's not like there's a cardboard on the backside. It's like, no, if everything is legit.
All the buildings.
It's 1945.
All the buildings you saw, you could walk in. They had doors that worked. There was an actual building inside. There were signs that didn't even end up in the movie. Like you'd see it like on the side of the building or something.
But it's there, right?
Like
that's
it's
what I mean.
all there. Like they might not have captured it in a shot, but like it was.
They have all that shit there just in case.
And it's not even like it's like you're saying. It's not like on one side it's set up, because depending on where you are on the set, technically the other side of the set had to be good too, because they were doing shots behind as well as in the center of the town. They called it like the little town. So it was literally like a full 360 building.
Exactly. They want flexibility to go anywhere.
When we first get out there, we're filming the first shot, which is the one I'm talking about. So in the shot, it's like them next to like this old like World War II Jeep, and you see people like carrying like big wood boards. I'm carrying like a toolbox. And then they have snow going because it's supposed to be like during wintertime. Now, the way they get snow is they literally had ash. So they were burning something and it was creating ash. And you literally see these PAs just like wafting it. And there's like 2 or 3 of them just like behind the cameras, just like walking back and forth. And it literally looked like snow. Was
it an IMAX camera?
Yeah.
Did it sound like a lawnmower?
Oh, you could hear it.
It was loud as fuck.
And then it would stop, and then it'd be like, okay, hold on, and it'd be like 2 minutes later, they're like switching out like the film and everything.
Yeah, it was loud.
Oh, it was, because I was not close to the camera. I was far away from the camera.
So it's either no audio or they put that thing in a fucking sound box, right?
Something.
Pretty sure they have this little sound box that they stick that thing in.
I didn't see it in the sound box though, but maybe if it was more of an intricate shot.
Well, the audio is probably done.
Like the ones that we were doing was like people driving up to the camp.
All that audio is put in after.
What's the actor that played Oppenheimer? I'm forgetting his name now.
Cillian Murphy.
So he's on horseback.
Killian?
I think it's Cillian. Pretty sure it's Cillian. Whatever his name is. So he's riding on horseback, right? That's another one. So it's like these big shots, though. Anytime they were using that IMAX camera, the actual film camera, it was always when it was like far away.
Which I think was they used the IMAX camera for like 90% of the film or anything, something like that.
But I think when they were doing the like actual, we're inside of a room, I think that's when they weren't doing it. I think that's
because it's almost unusable. Yeah.
But I think a lot of the shots they did both, because I definitely saw several cameras.
Oh, really?
But they only had the one IMAX camera. And then for the more intricate shots, I think they were just doing digital cameras. So the other thing I wanted to hit on real quick, and then if you want to add anything else. So there's the line in the movie, which is a direct quote from Oppenheimer. And it says, "I am become death, destroyer of worlds." Now, this is a very famous quote from him.
Right. But it's not his quote.
It actually comes from India.
Is it from?
I found out I had the book. I actually had the book.
Text?
Yeah, sort of. So it's sort of like that, like early Hindu stuff. So there's like the Vedic text and stuff like that. So this one is called the. I'm probably going to say it wrong. Bhagavad Gita. I believe is how you say it. This traveling Hindu was at my college, UNM, and just randomly was like, "Can I preach to you about Hinduism?" Right? If it was a Christian, I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, I don't got time. But I'm like, you want to preach to me about Hinduism? Yes, I'm interested, because this is probably the only time in my life this is ever going to happen. And this man gave me a book.
Dude, go to California.
He literally was just like, here you go. Like, just gave me the book for free. And then I gave him money, because I could tell, I was like, this guy looks broke. And he's just like giving out free books. But I was like, what a guy.
Weird. At the campus?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, let's see. I have the specific.
So what about the quote? What's up with it?
Sections. So it's mistranslated. Oppenheimer mistranslated it. So it's not that Christopher Nolan mistranslated it. It's that Oppenheimer did, and he just did a direct quote. So I wanna add a little bit more before we get to the specific quote. So let's see, 439. So what's interesting is in here we have like this God and this human that are friends, and they're talking. I had to like read the whole chapter because like out of context, I didn't understand what the line meant if I just read it really by itself. So he's referring to his friend. So I believe this is talking about Krishna, I think is the god in reference, but I don't remember anymore. So this is the human talking to him, his friend. If hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once into the sky, their radiance might resemble the effigy of the supreme person in the universal form. Obviously bright, godly, basically saying like, you're like 1,000 suns. But what does that sound like too? Like a nuclear bomb going off. It's so bright that they have to wear those glasses, the welder's glasses. So it's like,
yeah, well, I'm sure that's why he chose it. No,
well, I maybe, but I don't know. Well, if it is or not, you know,
I don't know. It helps.
But I just thought that was interesting. Now, clearly, he knows a lot about it, so he very well might have had that kind of in mind. So then we also have this part right here.
He was very well versed.
O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see your body, many, many arms, bellies, mouth, and eyes expanded everywhere without limit. Kind of sounds like the Tao, right? This like big universal thing. I see you, no end, no middle, no beginning. So I just thought that was an interesting correlation to what we talked about last episode with like the Tao is this whole like infinite thing. But obviously in Hinduism, a lot of times it's these like multi-armed, multi-faced things, right? So now we get to the quote itself. So he asked him, O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obedience unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know who you, for I do not know what your mission is. And this is his response. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, here's the quote. As it's more directly translated, time I am the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people, with the exception of you. All the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. So the more direct quote is actually time I am, or in this case, I am time. He's not saying I am death, he's saying I am time, the great destroyer of all worlds. And if you think about it, time will destroy everything no matter what.
I was going to say, what is death? Time.
And I have come here to destroy all people.
Time is death.
So it's interesting.
I think it's an intentional translation.
I was
reading. He's a smart guy.
Yes, yeah. No, I don't. I was reading.
But who did he quote that to? Like, who wrote it down?
It was in an interview after.
Okay.
It was like years later. But it was an interview with him, and it was kind of like, this was my thought at the time. So did he actually have that thought running through his mind as he's watching the Trinity explosion go off? I don't know. But that's basically what he said in the interview. This was the quote that went through my head.
I thought I bet he had a billion thoughts rolling through his mind. The movie didn't depict it like that, but
yeah.
I can only imagine he's running calculations, being like, okay, cool. Okay, I see. Okay, like.
Oh, of course, yeah. But there's this mythologist, like someone who specializes in like Hindu ancient scripture and stuff. And he was like, it seems like he took his Judeo-Christian background and sort of just supplanted that on Hinduism. Because Hinduism does not have that same concept of like sin and God's gonna like smite you. Not that there's not a destroyer, like Shiva is like the destroyer, but it's just like, there's this aspect of like, he probably took his own personal background, right? And then just kind of put it on top of that one. But I do think it's interesting that he sort of created his own quote in a way. And if anything, it's more famous than maybe the original quote.
You have to.
And it speaks volumes. We understand what he's saying when he says that. I am death, destroyer of worlds. He's implying like I just created the most destructive thing in human history.
You have to shorthand everything or it won't sell. It won't stick.
Yeah.
It's Hollywood, baby. What else you got on Oppenheimer? What did you think?
I think the big thing for me was the way that they told the story really wasn't so much about we're telling the story of Oppenheimer as like there's like this I don't know, trial wouldn't be the right word, but deciding if he's going to be allowed to keep his security clearance / then you also have this like congressional committee meeting, so trials in a sense, right? That's how we're telling the story. It's almost like, here's these two trials that are going on, and through these trials is how we're going to tell the story of Oppenheimer. I thought that was an interesting approach.
Yeah, it was very interesting. It was very entertaining. But I thought it dragged out a little bit. I was more.
And then you're jumping around a lot was a part of the thing too.
Oh, tons of jumping around. But he helps with. You can tell by some older scenes are in black and white, or all that stuff with Robert Downey Jr. It's in black and white. Their hair kept changing, so if it was time period, it was like super obvious.
Yeah,
like older makeup.
When you have like
younger makeup.
One of the last scenes where he's supposed to be much older. And
he was way older.
Everyone else that was working on the project is like much older, and I thought they did pretty good with that. It was also interesting seeing him younger because they tried to depict him like as like an early college student. I was like, he still looks a little bit too old, but like it works. Yeah. Like I see they tried.
Yeah,
especially if you're not going to CGI, you can only do so much.
So with Robert Downey Jr., his character, I thought it was awesome how at the beginning they painted him to be a protagonist, right? Like he was helping Oppenheimer, or he was like, cool, like, hey man, come to this college. You want to go talk to Einstein? He's over there. Here's your office. Everything's cool. And at the end of the movie,
I love that.
He was a fucking prick
the whole
time.
I just want to know what he said to Einstein about me. What did he say? And then you have that person,
about you,
and he's like, "Did you think maybe there's things other than you that they might have been talking about?"
Yeah, I thought that was a good.
I loved that.
I was like, "Yeah, fuck you."
And then finally, in the end, we won't give spoilers, but they finally show you the conversation that happens, and I'm like, "Yeah." I also thought it was interesting their dynamic,
chain reaction,
actually, between Oppenheimer and Einstein. I feel like I spent so long in my life thinking that Einstein worked on the Manhattan Project. It wasn't until more recently I finally
he was old.
realizing that he didn't. And it was that like line in the movie too where it was like someone literally brought it up. They're like, "Well, why didn't you have Einstein working on it? He's like the greatest mind of our generation." He's like, he's the greatest mind of his generation.
Right. And he's like retired.
Yeah. Well, and he didn't even want to help him with the calculations on, hey, do you think the nuke might maybe blow up the whole planet? And he's like, you keep that paper. He even tried to leave it with him. He tried to leave it with them, and he was like, no. This is your paper. You forgot it. I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I just think a little long. I think that's the only thing.
It was long.
I think it could have fit in like a 2.5 hour movie, but
the Oppenheimer, it wasn't a trial. It was like some special counsel to figure out if the government's gonna allow him to keep his
clearance,
top security clearance. So they were just in a small room. Robert Downey Jr.'s character picked all these guys, which we didn't find out to the end.
Yeah,
to just grill Oppenheimer, his friends, his family,
and it's more or less
all these people, and it gets terribly awkward. Oppenheimer will be sitting right behind this person who's giving a testimony about him, and he'll just like reveal a little white lie or something, a touchy subject.
Oh my god, the one that
just
got
sitting
me
there
though,
in the back, just taking
the one that got me is when his wife was sitting there and he's talking about the affair, and they literally like had him just fully naked, and I was like, oh man! And then next thing you know, the woman he's having the affair with, they're like having sex in front of everyone, and I was like,
and that was to symbolize his vulnerability in that spot.
Exactly.
Everything's right there on the line.
And you have the mistress like just staring right into her eyes, and
it made me very anxious.
Oh yeah,
that's when he was sitting behind the people testifying, I was incredibly anxious. Like that's why I didn't.
And you could see it on.
That's why I didn't eat. I was like, man, it's too much. It was good. If a movie makes you feel something, then it's working. Yeah, you know, it's good. Very good. It was
good. Very good. I just think the only thing for me is wasn't fun working for Christopher Nolan as background. So hopefully maybe I can work with him as an actual speaking role actor one of these days.
Nolan,
treat your background a little bit better, buddy. I mean, I'm just going to be honest.
Treat all background better. Let's segue into our next segment.